Hi guys, welcome back to Welcome Home Custom. Today we are going to talk a little bit about shaping and the file and assembly process of this guy. We're also going to discuss a little bit about a questionable glue up that I decided to try this time around. I hope you guys enjoy it. Alright guys, let's go ahead and jump right into the files. So when we open up the files, you'll see that you have 5 different options for formats. We are going to just use SVG today. First and foremost, you want to open up your instructions and color planner. Instructions will include things like the colors I used and how they are applied, the supplies that you'll need along with a breakdown of the wood, example pictures of all of the different files, along with what different things mean, kerf, no kerf, color planners, DIY, all kinds of stuff, and then a down and dirty how to assemble. The color planner is used to place your pieces. Most of us cannot score a backer, and so we use the color planner to place the pieces down. It's kind of like a cut and color by number. This will make your life a lot easier if you just print it out and use it. Then we have shared line and separated master. Shared line, let's go ahead and open it up. So the shared line file is basically a bunch of lines. None of the lines are shared, or none of the lines are overlapping. So if we ungroup a couple of times and I click on one of these lines, you'll see that none of the lines are shapes. So I call this a shared line because every shape is sharing a line as it cuts. The way I use this is I actually use this as my backer. So I will change my line on the outside to a different color. Oops, that wasn't a good example. I'll change it to a different color and then I will cut the outside line and I will score everything on the inside. Scoring is going to be a fast line function, but you are going super fast and low power, so it just marks the wood and does not cut it. The other way you can use this file is if you want to just do a fast cut and you've got a big laser, you can do a cut throughout. I would ignore the numbers, but that's the way you could use it, is just cut it out of a full piece of plywood. So the separated master is for someone that's a little bit more advanced and wants to change the aspect ratio of the design. So if we wanted to resize this, we could select the whole thing and then make it bigger or smaller just to, like, let's say fit a frame or something like that. All of the pieces then can be sorted out separately and you can rotate them, add your own offset for kerf, whatever you want to do. Again, this is a little bit more advanced for users. You don't have to use it. It's just there if you need to. And then we have cut by color. Cut by color is going to be sorted by no kerf and kerf. No kerf means that I have not added any sort of kerf offset. Kerf is going to be the material lost when your laser cuts. And so if we cut the no kerf as is, the pieces are going to fit loosey-goosey. These are for folks that know their kerf offset and want to apply their own so that they get the best fit possible. Kerf, I've added a 0.002 inch offset to every piece, and it is a one size fits most. So you'll notice that there are options A's and B's. That means that the file takes more than one sheet of wood and you'll need to cut both. You'll also notice if we open up one of these, the files are rotated to follow wood grain. So we want to make sure that our wood grain is following like the 1 inch. We can read it. So it's going to be, wood grain is going to be flowing left to right. If you by any reason, or need to by any reason, rotate your piece, you will lose the overall look and feel of the wood grain with the elephant. So I recommend keeping the pieces as is. Other thing to note is always make sure you check your 1-inch square to make sure that the file stayed in the correct size. Once you've validated that it is showing 1 by 1 inch, you can simply ignore it and not cut it. And then you also want to note that the gray numbers are scored and not engraved. All right, let's go ahead and jump into file assembly. All right, so I've already placed all my pieces down, and I want to talk real quick about dimension. So I ended up using 1/8 inch on all of my back. I used 1/4 inch for the elephant himself. And then I went ahead and cut the tusk and then this part right here with the same background. So if we put it down in there, put those pieces down. It's not really lined up right now, but that's okay. Then we can place this piece on top, and you can't really see the underneath because it matches, because it's the same color. But I thought it would look nice to have the tusk kind of raised up, and then where it meets the elephant himself needs to be raised just a little bit as well. Okay, so that is one thing that I did with this file that is a little bit different. The other thing is I went ahead and used more exotic wood. So this is wenge. It is a little bit harder to work with. You're going to want to use gloves if you decide to use wenge. This is my background color. And then I also used lacewood, which I felt like had this really pretty pattern throughout the elephant. If you don't want to use the lacewood, you can use oak for the lacewood instead, and you could use oak and then stain it for the background. So that is the two big differences that I did with this file. Now, what I'm going to go ahead and do is I am going to work through all of the piece shaping the elephant. Now, I'm only going to shape the elephant himself. I am going to clean up the backer, but I am not going to, or the background, but I am not going to shape the background. The only thing that I want organic in this piece is going to be the elephant himself. Safety goggles. So I'm using Sabertooth bits. My favorite bits include this concave shape, and each color is a, let me cover up my face. Each color is a different grit. So this is the strongest, second strongest, medium, and then fine. So you would work through these just like you would with sandpaper. And then the other ones I really like to use are these guys. Oops, I got two of them. But I like to use these guys because I can get into the smaller crooks of the pieces. So I am going to go ahead and start working through each of these pieces. Now, if I go ahead and use my strongest one first, I'll go ahead and demonstrate how I would shape the tusk. First, I'm going to set up my vacuum just to help with a lot of the dust control. It does get very messy and dusty. This is a little bit of an awkward setup because I'm trying to show you guys on camera, and I typically like to be a little bit closer to the vacuum, but that's all right. So I'm basically using the concave portion of this bit to round off the edge. And it really acts almost like a router bit in the sense of the way it's shaped and the way it's curved. It just takes off a nice clean edge and just makes the wood rounded. Now, you do want to move the tool quite a bit. If you stay only in one spot, it will end up cutting in or biting into a pretty big groove. So keep that in mind. You want to keep moving. The other thing too is if you've got a weird resistance and you're using the marathon tool, there is an option to switch which way it's rotating, because if you are left-handed versus right-handed, you may pull against the wood differently, and that might help you. So I just work around the piece, just taking off that hard edge. And then I'm going to switch over to a lighter bit to soften that edge even more and take out any of the rough sanding that I've created. And then finally, I'll just give the piece a quick one-over with some sandpaper. All right, so as you can see, I rounded those edges. And then I used sandpaper to finish just a little bit of what was left to clean up. But you can really take off most of it with these bits. And as long as I can fit these into the space, I will use them. The only time I don't use these is when they don't fit. Okay? So I'm going to go ahead and keep shaping. It's going to be cool. Okay. So something I just thought of that I want to mention is that on the edges where the elephant meets the frame, I am not going to round those edges because technically the elephant is still living down here, right? And so it wouldn't make sense to round a spot that technically is still continued out onto a new, or out further. Like, we don't want to round it because it's not where a piece is connecting. I hope that makes sense. It makes sense in my brain. So I just wanted to mention that. Don't round the edge of where the elephant meets the frame. Okay? So I end up just working through my pieces one at a time, methodically. It is a little tedious, but it can also be relaxing. I find that people either love shaping or they don't. And you do need to command a higher price if you decide to shape your pieces. So I think you guys get the idea of what I'm doing in shaping. Now I'm going to go ahead and fast forward, work through shaping all the pieces. Now I will say for these pieces here, they're going to be a little trickier. So I am going to take them apart because they are tight. And they're tight because of how many curves there are. Now for these, I'll end up using one of these bits and I will work my way around all of these corners. And I won't be able to use these. And that's okay. That is just part of shaping. So I'm going to go ahead and get to work doing the rest of these real quick, so then we can go ahead and start actually gluing him up. All right, shaping is done. So here is also our elephant. And my husband has we just tacked the frame on because I'm going to use it to help line up pieces, but I still want to stain the frame. So it's my thought that I will probably glue it and then take them back off. So what I'm going to do, I've not done this before, but I'm feeling crazy. I've got this Extend wood glue and it says that it takes like 30 to 45 minutes to dry. So I think we might try it, see how this goes. Is that crazy? It's crazy, but let's do it anyways. Because I can't tape, flip, and glue since I have the frame. See if my glue is still good. Appears to be. This is probably insane. But I also just shaped an entire piece the day of a reveal, which was also insane. So here we go. Yeah, this is crazy. I can't believe I did that. All right, well, I'm at it now. Didn't even sort my pieces. There's like so many things that I'm doing right now that I tell everyone not to do, but here I am doing it. Glue on the frame. See, this was a bad idea. And you know what the other thing I noticed? I'm sure you guys have already noticed. I can't, I'm not gonna be able to read my numbers, which is pretty silly. So I feel like maybe this wasn't the best idea. I mean, it feels like there's a ton of glue in here. This is what happens when you rush, guys. Don't rush like me. Rushing is bad. And it's dried out. Darn it, you guys. That's a problem. You see that color that just came out? Ooh. All right, here's what we're gonna do. We are gonna get all the pieces placed, and the bits that I don't have enough glue, I will add a little bit of glue as we go. Yeah, this was a bad idea. I can already tell this was a bad idea because I don't know where anything goes. So that was a really bad idea. Like, I can't see my numbers at all. For the tusk, I doubled up my pieces because I'm pretty sure that goes there. I mean, it's still moving quite a bit, so that's good. I'm getting glue everywhere. Okay, this was a bad idea. I keep saying that, but it really was. It really was a bad idea. Because, just for a number of reasons, it was a bad idea. So I'm going to go ahead and speed this up a little bit, but honestly, looking back, I think there's a number of things that I could have done that actually would have made this process not that bad. So first of all, checking my glue to make sure that it wasn't dried out. That was a big no-no. Sorting all my pieces, 1 through 10, 11 through 20, 20 through 30, etc. So I knew what all of my numbers were. And then also just printing out my color planner. Duh. Like, I have a color planner there for a reason for those that can't score on their backers. And so I'm kind of embarrassed that I didn't even print out a color planner to use myself. So there's a number of things that I could have done that actually would have made this process really not too bad. And overall, I actually really do like this glue. I also want to apologize for the weird crop. I have new cameras and I don't know why it's so cropped in, because it didn't look like that on the screen. So I apologize that we're missing some of this assembly process. So surprisingly, most of my pieces fit. I got to the very end and I couldn't get these last 3 pieces to fit. So I ended up taking some sandpaper to them, taking down the edge a bit, and I whacked it with a hammer. Now, one reason I do like using hardwoods is that I can go through and sand and clean up any of my glue issues that may be overspilled. And so that's what I'm doing here. I'm just giving everything a nice clean sand. Now is my favorite part. I am using Odie's oil over the entire piece. Now, I will say that this takes a little bit longer to apply because you really have to buff it into the wood, but it smells so nice. It is food safe. It's solvent free and non-toxic. I also like that the finish is just the right amount of sheen. All right, guys, that's it. Hopefully you found the tutorial helpful. Thanks so much for tuning in, and make sure to subscribe to the channel. Thanks so much.